There's an interesting phenomenon that happens in any relationship dynamic in which the closer you get to a person, the more poorly you feel you can treat them. This can happen in the form of raging or even neglect, and while there is a sense of humor that can be appreciated from doing the opposite of what you would expect in a close relationship, there's a difference between a joke setup and genuinely being a terrible human being. Here are 3 tips to not turn your relationships into trash. Tip number 1, be your best self. But they love me, even at my worst. Yeah, well, they became friends with you or fell in love with you at your best. I'm not saying never be vulnerable, but being besties never gives you an excuse to blatantly treat any of your relationships like garbage. You don't need to ever be unnecessarily rude. Your friend or lover is still a human being. Treat them with respect. A lot of people that get really close get this mentality, they'll never leave me, it's fine. Wrong. There's always the possibility of them breaking off the relationship if you treat them like garbage. So always be your best, as humanly possibly as you can. Treat your relationships with respect, period. Tip number 2, nurture the relationship. I have a cool rapport building episode coming up sometime in the future. Be sure to subscribe to dive even deeper into this idea of nurturing relationships. But for the sake of this episode, the main focus is going to be on the idea of contributing your time and energy into your relationship. Where a person's heart lies, that's where they'll spend their time and energy. Whether that's with their family, a loved one, a close friend, whatever, their time is going to be spent on those people. Whether you are aware of this concept or not, psychologically, relationships gauge one another based on this idea. That's why cheating is a very common provoker of pain. One of the party members feels that they aren't as important as the thing they are being cheated on with. That doesn't just apply to the scope of sexual activities, but towards literally any activity. Depending on the nature of the relationship, you want to make an effort to actually spend time with the people you care about. Otherwise, you two could end up just drifting apart. Which leads me to tip number 3. Tip number 3, manage relationship expectations. Whether it's an update a day, an update a week, one trip in a month together, whatever, set expectations and follow through on them. If you don't follow through on something you promise, it hurts the trust dynamic of the relationship. I've seen this so many times in marriages and with kids. I promise to show up to your baseball game, and then they don't show up. Whatever your expectations are, the most important thing is that you follow through. I love to refer to these mini goals as your love reps. Like working out to maintain a beefy, tough body, you have to get your reps in. It's the same principle in relationships. You have to get your love reps in. Otherwise, the relationship will simply wither away. In summary, tip number 1, be your best, always. It's okay to be vulnerable, but being close doesn't give you an excuse to abuse or neglect your relationships. Tip number 2, nurture your relationships, get your love reps in. Tip number 3, manage your relationship expectations. Set expectations and keep them. Don't destroy the relationship's trust. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more amazing weekly content. Let me know in the comment down below what your expectations are for a bestest of best friends. Do you talk every day, once a week, once a year? I mean, if you had an absolute favorite car, would you only want to drive it once a year? Think about it.